Hello everyone. Thanks for clicking on this video. You already know what it's about. I got the idea for this video on my first day skiing today for this year. I've skied since I was 3 years old and did it competitively. Specifically, what gave me the idea for this video was a sign I saw while going up the lift for the first time, which said, "Always stay in control," which philosophically was interesting. And a second sign as well, which said patrons must be able to get on the chairlift by their own power. What does it mean to have power when you're skiing? What does it mean to be in control? I think it's about a relationship you have to the landscape and a certain knowledge of yourself and your own abilities. Because you could be in control going 80 miles an hour if you're a great skier in the right conditions, even though it's a little dangerous. And you could be completely out of control going down the easiest runs on the mountain if you don't have the technique. So being in control to a certain extent is connected to your experience. But you don't really have a choice over that, because if you're really inexperienced as a skier or boarder, this includes snowboarding, but I'm speaking from my perspective as a skier. If you don't have the experience, it's hard to have the technique. So that's when knowledge of yourself comes in. But I'm pretty sure when I was 3 years old, I had no idea what that would mean. So they put me on this tiny hill and I'd take this automatic carpet up for like a year, and then I'd be able to go up the lift for the first time when I had the power. And the power is more connected to the technique even than control. Because power, let's think of it from the perspective of the sign I saw on the ski lift, or getting on the ski lift, that patrons must have the power. That's not necessarily connected to technique, very limitedly, because getting onto a chairlift and sitting on it doesn't take much power. The only form of technique you need is the ability to keep your skis straight to get to the line where it says to stand. What does it make you think? It makes me really think about the relationship one has between the mountain and their own skiing power. Because let's think about it. What would be the most amount of power you could have as a skier? The most amount of power would probably come from certain professionals who can do crazy stuff in the air, jump off cliffs, and not hurt themselves and not hurt other people. Sometimes they might, but to a large extent you can't, because if you were to do that kind of stuff and not have any power over your skis and your body, you'd just injure yourself and never be able to ski again, potentially, because you injured yourself so bad. That's not control. And there's also a certain kind of control you have when you choose a certain ski run to go down. They try and give you the best knowledge possible by putting green, blue, or black, or double black, or EX double black on the, like on a sign in front of the point where you have no choice anymore. So they try and give you a certain choice. And then you also have control over where on a particular run you might go skiing. You can avoid rocks, you can go down moguls versus groomed on certain runs where they split them in half. And those are choices. You have a certain kind of control. And you have control over the fact that you could learn new techniques and get lessons and all that. And hopefully to turn, if you're not a complete novice, you know how to turn. But if you choose to go straight down the run, then You might have the power to be able to control that if you're an expert. But if you have overconfidence and you're thinking in the back of your head, I can do anything, then you might not be able to see the limits of your own abilities. And there's a lot more to this because there's so many different ways you can psychologically approach skiing. I was listening to a conversation on a lift today between other people. I didn't interact with them. I was just observing. I'm a people watcher at heart. And it was interesting. It gave me more to think about that I want to discuss with you, which is what makes skiing fun. Because they were talking about a run I used to do jumps off of when I was like 14 years old, and going like, that sounds terrible, scary, not fun. We never should do that. I don't know how people do it. And I thought about it, and I thought about all the fun I had on that particular run. And that's connected to one's power. The power someone has when they're skiing, in a sense. Because the power is the limits you have in your abilities and technique. And it was so fun for me to do that kind of stuff. But fun is also related to what you can control. Because on some level, they had the awareness, which is very important, to decide what's in their power and when they would lose control over their bodies. I mean, it's connected to your mind, but it's your body when you're skiing more than anything, except for when you get to certain psychological dimensions, which is connected to overconfidence or right confidence or having no confidence at all. That's where the mind comes in. And in other ways, I'm sure there's plenty of other ways to think of this. And I don't want to close you off to your own contemplations about how you can philosophize about skiing. But I had so much fun going down groomers, going on moguls. Having fun super important to me. And then when I was on a lift the second time, I talked to someone directly. And they had an interesting point. When you ski since you're 3, you're not thinking of skiing as a workout. I mean, today, because I'm a little older, I feel it a little more, and my feet hurt, and I was cold. I was still having fun anyways, but you can also approach skiing from the perspective of working out, trying to physically develop yourself and maintain your body. But there's an interesting balance there, because if you go too hard, farther than you should, you could hurt your joints, you could get injured, or you could reach an optimal flow state where you're really pushing yourself and you're breathing harder, your heart rate's up, but you're not overdoing it. And that's connected to the mind as well. Psychologically, you have to know your limits. And it's a good test for philosophy. Because a lot of times we think philosophy, we think of it intellectually, but there's a physical aspect to it. When you can know your limits and also have fun and know your intentions when you're skiing, it's an easy place to test your wisdom and observe what's difficult for you. There's some people who can't enjoy the lift ride. They hate standing in line. They're in a hurry. They're rushing. And if you can't take a moment, relax when you're doing something purely for fun or maybe a light workout, it might say something about your broader approach to life overall and your life philosophy. I noticed at times that I was in a hurry The gondola going up to the ski slopes was stopped for a while. I even felt a little impatient. It's a good reflecting point. And then there's lots of other things you can look at. The fact that I want to get back more into the ideas on governance, because the ski patrol and the management of the mountain control your choices as well. They can close runs. They keep them safe for people by doing avalanche control. They have to govern the mountain, otherwise people might hurt themselves. To a certain extent, their responsibility is to inform people about dangers, even though, I mean, they don't take any liability. They make a serious point that it's your responsibility for any dangers and injuries that you might have. But they have a certain form of government. The fact that those signs were there in the first place has a certain form of political philosophy, because they think it's your responsibility to stay in control and understand what that means. And it's fascinating. I might make more videos on this in the future. So if you're interested in me going into any more particular aspects that I discussed, or anything that I didn't bring up connected to skiing philosophy, comment it, and please subscribe if this was interesting to you.